वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 7 चैप्टर 6 वर्स 10। कोन्वर्ततृष्णां विसृजेत् प्राणेभ्योऽपि य ईप्सितः यं क्रीणात्यसुभिः प्रेष्ठैः तस्करः सेवको वणिक्। Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? Thieves, professional servants, soldiers, and merchants try to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives. Of course, we don't. This is the conditioned state, not like Prahlad Maharaj is encouraging this. But yeah, very, very apt. Money is sweeter than honey. How money can be dearer than life is indicated in this verse. Thieves may enter the house of a rich man to steal money at the risk of their lives. Because of trespassing, they may be killed by guns or attacked by watchdogs, but still they try to commit burglary. Why do they risk their lives? Only to get some money. Similarly, a professional soldier is recruited into the army and he accepts such service with the risk of dying on the battlefield only for the sake of money. In the same way, merchants go from one country to another on boats at the risk of their lives, or they dive into the water of the sea to collect pearls and valuable gems. Thus, it is practically proved, and everyone will admit, that money is sweeter than honey. One may risk everything to acquire money, and this is especially true of rich men who are too attached to household life. Formerly, of course, the members of the higher castes, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, everyone but the Shudras, were trained in the Gurukula to adhere to a life of renunciation and sense control by practicing brahmacharya and mystic yoga. Then they were allowed to enter household life. There have consequently been many instances in which great kings and emperors have given up household life. Although they were extremely opulent and were the masters of kingdoms, they could give up all their possessions because they were trained early as brahmacharis. Prahlad Maharaj's advice is therefore very appropriate. Kaumara charet pragno dharman bhagavataniha durlabham manusham janam tadapyat dhruvam arthadam. One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Human society should take advantage of this instruction. Basically, Prabhupada is saying that those without training, those people who enter a household life, they become attached to money, because they're too attached to household life also. But previously, formerly, except Shudras, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas were all trained in Gurukul. So Gurukul means life of renunciation, brahmacharya, yoga. So they were not, they would give up household life at the right time. And so although they were extremely opulent, they were trained early as brahmacharis, so they would give up their possessions. So training is required from the very beginning, and best thing is to engage in devotional service from the tender age of childhood. Katham priyaya anukampitaya sangam rahasyam ruchiramscha mantran surutsu tat snehasitah shishunam kalaksharanam anurakta chittaha Putran smaram sta duhitru hridaya भ्रातॄन् स्वस्र वा पितरौ च दीनौ गृहान् मनोज्ञोरुपरिच्छदांश्च वृत्तिश्च कुल्याः पशुभृत्यवर्गान् त्यजेत कोशस्कृद् इवेहमानः कर्माणि लोभात् वितृप्तकामः औपस्त्यजह्वं बहुमन्यमानः कथं विरज्येत दुरन्तमोहः. How can a person who is most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, how can such a person give up their association? Specifically, a wife is always very kind and sympathetic and always pleases her husband in a solitary place. Not today's world, I think. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father, and while living at her husband's house, she is always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, and there are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm, which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out, simply for the satisfaction of two important senses, the genitals and the tongue. One is bound by material conditions. How can one escape? Of course, when we read this description, it doesn't look so much applicable to today's life. Not at least many parts of this. Which means, as a contrarian view, we can say here it's saying if all these conditions are there, if household life is so nice, who could give up that association? But considering Kali Yuga, household life is not so nice, which means that it's an imperative to actually give up household life. Previously, all things were very, very attractive, so it would be more difficult to give up. Nowadays, it's not so much, right? So, which means that it should actually convince us to actually give up household life at some point. And everything just for the satisfaction of genitals and tongue. In household affairs, the first attraction is the beautiful and pleasing wife, who increases household attraction more and more. One enjoys his wife with two prominent sense organs, namely the tongue and the genitals. The wife speaks very sweetly. This is certainly an attraction. Then she prepares very palatable foods to satisfy the tongue. And when the tongue is satisfied, one gains strength in the other sense organs, especially the genitals. Thus, the wife gives pleasure in sexual intercourse. Household life means sex life. Yanmaitunadi grahamedi sukham hitucham. This is encouraged by the tongue. Then there are children. A baby gives pleasure by speaking sweet words in broken language. And when the sons and daughters are grown up, one becomes involved in their education and marriage. Then there are one's own father and mother to be taken care of, and one also becomes concerned with the social atmosphere and with pleasing his brothers and sisters. A man becomes increasingly entangled in household affairs, so much so that leaving them becomes almost impossible. Thus, the household becomes Grihamanda Kupam, a dark well into which the man has fallen. For such a man to get out is extremely difficult unless he is helped by a strong person, the spiritual master, who helps the fallen person with the strong rope of spiritual instructions. So the key is spiritual instructions, not just simply if one has got initiated that it is the end of the job, right? So then there has to be strong rope of spiritual instructions, not casual rope, not, you know, how much ever is possible, do it kind of rope. Strong rope. Fallen person should take advantage of this rope, and then the spiritual master or the supreme person, Godhead Krishna, will take him out of the dark well. But the important thing is to follow the instructions. Otherwise, Prabhupada is saying it's practically impossible to get out of household life. So the mercy is that of the Guru and spiritual master and Supreme Lord to pull us out. And we have to come out. We have to make up our mind to come out. कुटुम्बपोषाय निजायुर्न बुध्यतेऽर्थं विहतं प्रमत्तः सर्वत्र तापत्रयदुःखितात्मा निर्विद्यते न स्वकुटुम्बरामः. One who is too attached cannot understand that he is wasting his valuable life for the maintenance of his family. He also fails to understand that the purpose of human life, a life suitable for realization of the absolute truth, is being imperceptibly spoiled without being noticed, imperceptibly spoiled. However, he is very cleverly attentive to seeing that not a single farthing is lost by mismanagement. Thus, although an attached person in material existence always suffers from the threefold miseries, he does not develop a distaste for the way of material existence. So, such a yeah, this surprises, right? One suffers from threefold miseries, but still doesn't develop a distaste for the material life, for household life. Strange, right? And he doesn't notice that his life is being imperceptibly spoiled. See, such perfect, assessment by Prahlad Maharaj. A foolish man does not understand the values of human life, nor does he understand how he is wasting his valuable life by simply for the maintenance of his family members. He is expert in calculating the loss of pounds, shillings, and pence, but is so foolish that he does not know how much money he is losing, even according to material considerations. Chanakya Pandit gives the example that a moment of life cannot be purchased in exchange for millions of dollars. A foolish person, however, wastes such a valuable life without knowing how much he is losing, even according to monetary calculations. Although materialistic person is expert in calculating costs and doing business, he does not realize that he is misusing his costly life for want of knowledge. Even though such a materialistic person is always suffering threefold miseries, he is not intelligent enough to seize his materialistic way of life. Yeah, it's like that Yaksha Prashna, right? What is the most surprising thing that everybody around us is dying, but we still don't think that that will come to us. That we are living like this is permanent. Accumulating money, trying to find material happiness as if it's all going to be permanent. But it's foolish because it's all going to go anyway. And what is going to remain is our spiritual accomplishment, which will be for most people close to zero, normal material people. So this is not a sign of intelligence. Vitteshu nityabhinivishtacheta vidvamscha dosham paravittahartuhu pretyeha vathapi achitendriyastad ashantakamo harate kutumbi. A person too attached to duties of family maintenance is unable to control his senses. The core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. So if one is unable to control senses, the core of their heart, meaning they're just simply always thinking about how to accumulate money. Although he knows that one who takes the wealth of others will be punished by the law of the government and by the laws of Yamaraja after death, he continues cheating others to acquire money. Yeah, and people for this, they cheat, they tell lies, considering it's normal. Like Prabhupada used to say, if a businessman tells you that he's selling something to you without profit, he said it's the first, white lie. No businessman will do that. Why will he do that? Hmm. So yeah, everybody is just cheating. Especially in these days, people do not believe in a next life or in the court of Yamaraja and the various punishments of the sinful. We should understand saying that, we might be getting away from material laws, but we can't get away from the court of Yamaraja. At least one should know that one who cheats others to acquire money will be punished by the laws of the government. Nonetheless, people do not care about the laws of this life or those governing the next. Despite whatever knowledge one has, one cannot stop his sinful activities if he is unable to control his senses. Like Arjuna asked in Bhagavad Gita, what is this? What is it that is forcing us to do sinful activities? Kama esha, krodha esha, rajo guna samudbhava, mahashano mahapapma vidyena miha vairinam. Krishna says it's kama, just this desire, material desire. which makes people sin. And because they don't understand that they're sinning or that there is punishment for sinning, they go on. And sometimes, even if we know, we cannot control ourselves because of conditioning. Vidvan apitham danujah kutumbam pushnan swalokaya na kalpate vai yasviyaparakya vibhinna bhavas tamaprapadyeta yatha vimudaha. O my friends, sons of demons, in this material world, even those who are apparently advanced in education have the propensity to consider this is mine and this that is for others. Thus, they are always engaged in providing the necessities of life to their families in a limited conception of family life, just like uneducated cats and dogs. They are unable to take to spiritual knowledge. Instead, they are bewildered and overcome by ignorance. In human society, there are attempts to educate the human being, but for animal society, there is no such system, nor are animals able to be educated. Therefore, animals and unintelligent men are called vimudha or ignorant, bewildered, whereas an educated person is called vidwan. The real vidwan is one who tries to understand his own position within this material world. For example, when Sanatana Goswami submitted to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his first question was, Ke ami, kene amai, jar tapatrai. In other words, he wanted to know his constitutional position and why he was suffering from the threefold miseries of material existence. This is the process of education. If one does not ask, who am I? What is the goal of my life? But instead follows the same animal propensities as cats and dogs, what is the use of his education? Similarly, for practicing devotees also, even after knowing who am I, what is the goal of life, if you simply follow animal propensities, what is the use of that knowledge? As discussed in the previous verse, a living being is entrapped by his fruitive activities, exactly like a silkworm trapped in its own cocoon. Foolish persons are generally encouraged by their fruitive actions because of a strong desire to enjoy this material world, but which is actually not possible. Still, we don't give up. Such attracted persons become involved in society, community, and nation and waste their time, not having profited from having obtained human forms. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, great leaders, politicians, philosophers, and scientists are all engaged in foolish activities, thinking this is mine and this is yours. That's why Krishna says, Maya Bharata Gnana, Asuram Bhavam Ashrita. The scientists invent nuclear weapons and collaborate with big leaders to protect the interests of their own nation or society. In this verse, however, it is clearly stated that despite their so-called advanced knowledge, they actually have the same mentality as cats and dogs. As cats, dogs, and other animals not knowing their true interest in life, Nate Vidu Swarthagatim Hi Vishnu, become increasingly involved in ignorance. The so-called educated person who does not know his own self-interest or the true goal of life becomes increasingly involved in materialism. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj advises everyone to follow the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Why? Because people are steeped in their own self-interest without knowing the real self-interest, and they're increasingly involved in materialism. To pull them out of that, we need Varnashrama because they are not going to accept bhakti. Specifically, at a certain point, one must give up family life and take to the renounced order of life to cultivate spiritual knowledge and thus become liberated. Clear statement. At a certain point, one must give up. This is further discussed in the following verses. यतो न कश्चित् क्वच कुत्रचित् वा दीनस्वम् आत्मानमलं समर्थः विमोचितुं कामदृशां विहार क्रीडा मृगो यन्निगडो निगडो विसर्गः ततो विदूरात् परिहृत्य दैत्येषु सङ्गं विषयात्मकेषु उपेतनारायणमादिदेवं समुक्तसङ्गे ऋषितोपवर्गः. My dear friends, O sons of the demons, it is certain that no one bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Lord has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time or in any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by material laws. They're factually addicted to sense gratification. Their target is women. Indeed, they're actually playthings in the hands of attractive women. Victimized by such a conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and thus they're shackled to material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Therefore, although you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons and take shelter of the Supreme Lord Narayana, the origin of all the demigods, because the ultimate goal for the devotees of Narayana is liberation from the bondage of material existence. So clearly, who are demons? Who are too materially attached, who are addicted to material life. They are demons. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying, though you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons who are addicted to family life and take shelter of the Supreme Lord, because the ultimate goal of devotees of Narayana is liberation. Or the ultimate goal for devotees of Krishna is not liberation, it's bhakti. Prahlad Maharaj has maintained the philosophical point of view that one should give up the dark well of family life and to go to the forest to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Hitvatma patam grahamandakopam vanam gato yadharimashrayeta. In this verse also he stresses the same point. In the history of human society, no one at any time or any place has been liberated because of too much affection and attachment for his family. Even in those who are apparently very educated, the same family attachment is there. So which means they're actually apparently educated only. They're not really educated. They cannot give up the association of their families, even in old age or invalidity, for their attached to sense enjoyment. What is the sense enjoyment? Old age, just being with grandchildren, being in the comfort of the house, talking about things that that had happened in the past. Yeah, everything connected to family life and that sense enjoyment. They find happiness, then going and meeting relatives, blah blah blah. As we have several times discussed in Maithunadigrame Sukam Hitucham. So-called householders are simply attracted by sexual enjoyment. Thus, they keep themselves shackled in family life, and furthermore, they want their children to be shackled in the same way. Playing the parts of playboys in the hands of women, they glide down to the darkest regions of material existence. Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamisram Punah Punascharvita Charvananam. Because they are unable to control their senses, they continue a life of chewing the chewed and therefore descend to the darkest material regions. One should give up the association of such demons and adhere to the association of devotees. Thus, one will be able to be liberated from material bondage. So, basically, heavy beating on materially attached life. Na hyachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajaha atmatvat sarvabhutanam siddhattvadiha sarvataha. My dear sons of demons, the Supreme Lord Narayana is the original super soul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him or worshipping him under any conditions. There are no impediments, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Lord is always a fact, and therefore there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying, because there is an eternal relationship and that has no impediments. Haituki apratihata. So under any conditions, we can do bhakti and please the Lord. One may ask, one is certainly very attached to family life, but if one gives up family life to be attached to the service of the Lord, one must undergo the same endeavor and trouble. Therefore, what is the benefit of taking the trouble to engage in the service of the Lord? It is not a valid objection. And Lord says, Sarvayonishu Kauntaya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahmam Mahadyoniraham Bija Pradapita. Should be understood that all species of life are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Narayana is the seed-giving father of all living entities because the living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. As there is no difficulty in establishing the intimate relationship between a father and son, there is no difficulty in re-establishing the natural intimate relationship between Narayana and the living entities. If one performs even very slight devotional service, Narayana is always ready to save one from the greatest danger. The definite example is Ajamila. Ajamila separated himself from the Supreme Lord by performing many sinful activities and was condemned by Yamaraja to be severely punished, but because at the time of death he chanted the name of Narayana. Although he was calling not for the Supreme Lord Narayana, but for his son named Narayana, he was saved from the hands of Yamaraj. Therefore, pleasing Narayana does not require as much endeavor as pleasing one's family, community, and nation. This is very, very important. And even if after all our efforts, we still cannot please everybody. One person is pleased, somebody else is displeased. We've seen important political leaders killed for a slight discrepancy in their behavior. Therefore, pleasing one's society, family, community, and nation is extremely difficult. So Prabhupada is talking about Mahatma Gandhi. Pleasing Narayana, however, is not at all difficult. It is very easy. One's duty is to revive one's relationship with Narayana. A slight endeavor in this direction will make the attempt successful, whereas one will never be successful in pleasing his so-called family, society, and nation, even if one endeavors to sacrifice his life. The simple endeavor involved in the devotion service of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing chanting the holy name of the Lord, can make one successful in pleasing the Supreme Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore bestowed his blessings by saying, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to Shri Krishna Sankirtana. If one wants to derive the actual benefit from this human form, he must take to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And we have discussed saying that this is the central process. All other processes finally bring us to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the door which opens up to reveal the Lord's form, qualities, pastimes, abode, everything. Is the door, it's the pathway, it's the by how much ever studying Shastra, but if one doesn't chant Hare Krishna, he cannot achieve perfection in Kali Yuga. Like we've discussed, path of Gnana by itself is of no use. Bhavanam Janmanam Ante Gnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So finally, he has to come and surrender to Krishna. And even if one surrenders to Krishna, by doing other forms of devotional service, especially in Kali Yuga, one cannot achieve perfection. Which is why all angas of devotional service have to be accompanied by chanting of the holy name. Which means if you're doing Archanam also, there should be Hare Krishna Mahamantra being chanted. So it is finally the chanting of the holy name, which is going to give us perfection. And which is why the focus has to be on chanting, putting all our energy in chanting the holy name. We put energy in doing various services, but we don't put enough energy in actually improving our chanting, isn't it? So we have to put efforts to chant the holy name nicely with attention without being distracted here and there, because that's going to open up the higher levels of perfection. So focus should be on chanting. परावरेषु भूतेषु ब्रह्मान्तस्तावरादिषु भौतिकेषु विकारेषु भूतेष्वथ महत्सु च गुणेषु गुणसाम्ये च गुणव्यतिकरे तथा एक एव परो ह्यात्मा भगवान् ईश्वरो व्ययः प्रत्यगात्मस्वरूपेण दृश्यरूपेण च स्वयं व्याप्य व्यापकनिर्देश्यो ह्यनिर्देश्यो विकल्पितः केवलानुभवानन्द स्वरूपः परमेश्वरः माययान्तहितैश्वर्य ईयते गुणसर्गया. Supreme Lord, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable. What is this? Indefatigable. Cannot be defeated, or what does it mean?
Never gets fatigue, I think.
Maybe. Never gets fatigue. Persisting tirelessly. Indefatigable defender of human rights. Okay. So he's persistent. Okay. Infallible and persistently tireless. Is present in different forms of life, from the inert living beings, Thavara, such as plants, to Brahma, the foremost created being. Is present in different forms. Okay. Is also present in the varieties of material creations and in the material elements, the total energy, material energy, and the modes of material nature, as well as the unmanifested material nature and false ego. So basically, Paramatma is present everywhere. Although he is one, he is present everywhere and is also the transcendental super soul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer, Anumantopadrushta, in the course of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and as the all pervading super soul. But actually, he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the supreme Sachidananda. Being covered by the curtain of the external energy, to the atheist, he appears non existent. Oh, high philosophy. Supreme Lord, Supreme Controller, who is infallible. Okay, that we understand. Indefatigable. Don't know what this means. Persistently tireless. In what way? It's not clear. Is different. Is present in different forms of life. So it's all. The Atmas are part and parcel of him. In that way, he is present. He's also present in the varieties of material creation. So the whole material creation happens because of material energy. Supreme Lord entering as material energy. As Durga Devi into all the material elements and brings them into action. So without him, actually the material world will not come into existence. Although he is one, he is present everywhere. He is also the transcendental super soul, who is present as the observer. Okay, now this I couldn't understand. He is indicated as that which is pervaded. How is he pervaded? I didn't understand. And as the all pervading super soul, but actually he cannot be indicated, meaning you cannot like define him types, I think. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as a supreme Sachidananda. Being covered by the curtain of Maya, to the atheist he appears non-existent. Not only the Supreme Personality of Godhead present as super soul of all living entities, at the same time he pervades everything in the entire creation. He exists in all circumstances and at all times. He exists in the heart of Lord Brahma and also in the course of the hearts of hogs, dogs, trees, plants, and so on. He is present everywhere. He is present not only in the heart of the living entity but also in material things, even in the atoms, protons, and electrons being explored by material scientists. The Lord is present in three features, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Because he is present everywhere, he is described as Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Vishnu exists beyond Brahman. Bhagavad Gita confirms that Krishna, by his Brahman feature, is all pervading. Maya tatamidam sarvam. But Brahmano hi pratistaham. But Brahman depends upon Krishna. Without Krishna, there could be no existence of Brahman or Paramatma. Therefore, Bhagavan is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. Although he is present as the Paramatma in the core of everyone's heart, he is nonetheless one, either as an individual or as the all-pervading Brahman. The supreme cause is Krishna, and devotees who have surrendered to the Supreme Lord can realize him and his presence within the universe and within the atom. Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastham. This realization is possible only for devotees who have fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. For others, it is not possible. Is confirmed in by Lord Krishna himself. Daivi yesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mame vaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. The process of surrender in a devotional attitude is accepted by a fortunate living being. Process of surrender is accepted by a Punyajivi, Bhagyajivi. After wandering through many varieties of life on many planetary systems, when one comes to the real understanding of the absolute truth by the grace of a devotee. So this Bhunam Janmanam Ante for a Gnani happens only by the grace of a devotee. Then one surrenders to the Supreme Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Prahlad Maharaj, class friends who were born of Daitya families, thought that realizing the absolute was extremely difficult. Indeed, we have experienced that many people say this very thing. Actually, however, this is not so. The absolute is most intimately related to all living entities. Therefore, if one understands the Vaishnava philosophy, which explains how he is present everywhere and how he acts everywhere, to worship the Supreme Lord or to realize him is not at all difficult. Realization of the Lord, however, is possible only in the association of devotees. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to Rupa Goswami said, Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. The living entity in the material condition wanders through many varieties of life and many varieties of circumstances. But if he comes in contact with a pure devotee and he is intelligent enough to take instructions from the pure devotee regarding the process of devotional service, he can understand the Supreme Lord without difficulty. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya says, Antaryami Pratyakatma Vyaptakalo Harismritaha Prakritya Tamasa Vruttatvat Hare Aishwaryam Na Gnayate. The Lord is present as Antaryami in everyone's heart and is visible in the individual soul covered by a body. Indeed, he is everywhere at every time and every condition, but because he is covered by the curtain of Maya, to an ordinary person there appears to be no God. Anyway, it's all known philosophy except for some things which are not heard of. That he's he's indicated as that which is pervaded. Maybe that means material energy, because material energy is pervaded by the Supreme Lord, and he's also the pervading super soul, and also he's indefatigable. These are some new things. Otherwise, we know the rest of philosophy. Therefore, my dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well wishers. This is an instruction for all of us. Lord says, Bhaktya mam vijanati avanyashchasmi tattvataha. One can understand the Supreme Lord as he is only by devotional service. Prahlada ultimately instructed his class friends to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in the service of preaching Krishna consciousness. If anybody wants special mercy, then engage in preaching. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Nachatasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakarattamaha. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Of course, preaching also means book distribution, or just Yare Deko Tare Kaho Krishna Upadesh. Both are preaching. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and his supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Lord. This is bhakti. So somehow we have to preach. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied and the mission of one's life is fulfilled, meaning the life of the preacher is also fulfilled, and the life of possibly the one who is preached to can also become fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee. Prabhupada said guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare Deka Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Lord, especially because we're going to get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those to whom he preaches are also satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world, is to give this timeless wisdom. Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam Sarvalokamaheshwaram Surudam Sarvabhutanam Atmamam Shanti Mrichati. One is expected to understand these three formulas of knowledge concerning the Supreme Lord, that he is the supreme enjoyer, he is the proprietor, and that he is the best well-wisher and friend. A preacher should personally understand these truths and preach them to everyone. Then there will be peace and tranquility all over the world. The word Sauhridam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Since the Supreme Lord is situated in the core of everyone's heart, everybody is a temple of Vishnu. One should not misuse this understanding as an excuse for such words as Daridra Narayana. If Narayana lives in the house of a Daridra, this does not mean that Narayana becomes poor. He lives everywhere in the houses of the poor and those of the rich, but in all circumstances he remains Narayana. To think that he becomes either poor or rich is a material calculation, is always Sadaishwarya Purna, full in six opulences in all circumstances. So Prabhupada is saying preaching is the essence, and this is the simple truth we have to preach. These three truths, which is the peace formula. And if we want, Lord will be extremely pleased by anyone who engages in preaching the glories of the Lord and his devotional service. So everyone has to become a guru devotee, guru and also devotee, right? And this is the central message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How many more verses are there? 24. Oh, still many are there. Okay, so we'll stop here. Okay, any comments? I think there are no questions. Today's discussion was straightforward. Any comments? Okay, and we'll close. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarupishta kripa sindhu bhyo patitanam pavane bhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo ananta koti vaishnavande ki jai samaveta gaurava ki jai. Hare Krishna.